Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris with My Service Area and Happy Cans back with another video. Today, our guest is Mike Walker from Spiffy Bin.
Hey there, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Hey, we're doing good. Glad that you could take a few minutes to speak with us. I'm sure a lot of people will benefit from your knowledge and experience that you've had in the bin cleaning business. So, Mike, let's start with your background. How in the world did you get started in the bin cleaning business, and how'd you find it?
Sure. So, excuse me. About 25 years ago, so I was in the restaurant industry. Worked in there. Went to college for hotel resort management. Graduated there. Went into the restaurant business. Was a manager at various restaurants through the next 12 years or so, 12 or 13 years, and enjoyed it a lot. It was great. But then once the family came along, it got real hard because you would do the handoff at 4:30 or 5 o'clock to my wife. And then I'd work until 2 a.m, and then at 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. when she went back to work, I was daddy, I was watching the kids in the morning, and then we'd do it all over again. So became tough. Left that, went into the real estate world, and did real estate for about 12 years in New York, Western New York, Rochester. And that was great. I enjoyed it. Had a good business. It was fun. My wife had the opportunity to move south. My mom was south, her dad was south. Just kind of made sense now to move back closer to family, because we had never really been around family while we had kids, and made the move down here to Atlanta. Started the real estate business, but real estate is so focused on relationships, and it just takes a long time to build that. You have to be willing to almost proselytize yourself to get in touch with people, and it was just not something that I felt the passion for anymore. So went into a couple other little jobs, manufacturing jobs and stuff. And then I was like, this is not gonna, I was at that point 45 years old. And I was like, this is not going to be the way I want to retire, with the money we had, and then the little bit that I'm adding to it. So decided to look for other jobs, other opportunities, business opportunities, being that I was in real estate. And kind of to some extent, the restaurant business, while it wasn't my restaurant, you felt like it was your restaurant. You ran it like it was your restaurant. So long story short, found a couple other opportunities, quickly discounted those because I did the job at home and did not like it. And then stumbled upon bin washing. So did a bunch of research and decided in 2018, December of 2018, to give it a whirl. So got our first truck in December of 18, and the rest is history, if you will.
I didn't know you were in the restaurant business.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, about 15 years or so. And it was a great business, a great job. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. I happened to be in a chain similar to like a TGI Fridays.
Right.
So we did $3.5 million a year. We had 50 to 70 employees depending on the season. I ended up starting off as an assistant manager to an AGM, assistant general manager to a general manager. And then finally at the end, I was like, it's time to do something different. That's more family. Obviously you're working every Friday, Saturday, every Thursday night. Friday would be a mid, 11 to 11 basically. And then Saturday would always be a closed shift because you had to be there when the action was. So, it was rough. It was a lot of hours, but not unlike owning your own business. So I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit in some respects, starting back from a paper boy when I was, 13 years old or whatever, and trudging through Syracuse, New York snowstorms with your 60 papers to deliver, and, running lawn mowing routes at the same time. And it was always fun, but a lot of things that I don't think kids nowadays have the opportunity to do, because it's all been outsourced to adults, adults delivering the papers, or adults doing the lawn mowing and stuff like that. So that's a little bit unfortunate. But
I know that we talk a lot and got to know each other over the last year and a half or so. But you and I are very similar with our backgrounds, because I had a paper route. I was also the kid. I'm a little older than I look. I was also the kid I was also the kid. We used to live by a golf course that would go down by the river and get the golf balls out of the river and sell them back to the
Okay.
clubhouse.
That's awesome.
I mowed lawns, but
Yeah.
I had a cafe. I dropped out of college actually after my junior year, and I opened up. Well, it started off as a. This is in '97. Um, I opened a coffee and smoothie bar. This is before Starbucks was
Sure.
Starbucks.
Okay.
And I did this. I'm originally from North Carolina. I did this in Pinehurst, North Carolina, and after 6 months of serving coffee and smoothies, I realized that I needed a kitchen. I needed food, so I built a kitchen
Yeah.
and did breakfast and lunch. But I had that for
Wow.
almost 4 years. Well, probably closer to a little over 3. But I was lucky enough to sell it. But I had zero. I had no life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I said again, I would never do the restaurant thing ever again.
It's a hard, I think it's a young man's business, because once you get older, it's harder and harder to do. And,
Yep.
but when you were younger, you used to just rinse and repeat, go to bed at 3 a.m, right up at 8, no big deal, and you went with it. But it was tough. It was tough.
Yeah. So the bin cleaning. So you have 2 trucks, right?
We have 2, yes. Yep.
Gotcha. And what equipment did you go with?
I went with Sparkling Bins out of Miami. Got my first truck, like I said, in December of 18. The goal, my mantra, if you will, has always been 3 years, 3 trucks, and me not driving any of them. If you talk to me at any point on the route, that was what I was saying. I wanted to be out of the truck by then, because at that point I was going to be, I started at 46. I was going to be 49, 50, and I'm turning 50 this year. And not that I don't want to do the work, but, at some point it's kind of a young man's game to some respects too. It's a little bit of hustle and all that kind of stuff. Plus you can't, what I've learned is, when you're in the truck for 10, 11 hours a day, there's not a lot of time to build the business. You're basically just servicing the business. Whatever comes in is great. And when you're on the route, you're in touch with customers and all that kind of stuff, but you're not really in touch with the big number customers. You're not really in touch with, the HOAs and the property managers that will definitely help solidify this business and make it, almost run on autopilot and run easier. If you can get a bunch of HOAs. We've only had one success with an HOA where we did 126 homes, and they each had 1 to 2 bins. Most had 1. As it turns out, I didn't realize that. So when I priced it, I was pricing it for 2 bins. They went for it, so it worked out. But the majority of them had 1 bin, and we were able to knock it out with 3 guys, 2 trucks, and I think we did it in about 4.5, 5 hours, something like that, over 2 weeks. So the way I set those up is I say, your trash day is Tuesday. We'll come in on Wednesday this week, and then 2 weeks from now, we'll come in on Wednesday and finish up. So we do the lion's share the first day, but then that allows if somebody's on vacation or doesn't have the bins out or puts them away or something stupid, we have another opportunity to get in there. So of the 126 homes, we did 121 of them. So the other 4 or 5, I guess, just lose out, and I only charged for the 121. But it was a good day. It was a good day and a half. And like I said, it was about 4 hours or 5 hours the first time, and then the second time we went in and did 9, and we were done in less than an hour, a little over an hour. Only 1 guy went back for that second time. Gotcha. So, but the moral of the story there is we gained 126 customers. Now, I happened to gain that on the route. I was at Racetrack, a local gas station or a national gas station, I guess, and filling up. And the HOA president just happened to be there and asked me a couple of questions, and was interested. So we chatted back and forth a couple of times, and that's that. So the goal now is to reach out, and we did that in September. The goal is to reach out again in May or June and try to talk, set up a conversation where we do it again, and do it yearly, or ideally I'd like to do it, those type of things, like twice a year, but we'll see how that goes.
Gotcha.
So I have a 3rd truck coming in supposedly in March. The delay in building is tough, and then we actually have a 4th on the order, just to get in the queue. The good, we wanted to get in the queue, and then if we need it when it's when our time is ready, great. If not, we can push it a couple builds and take it later if need be.
That's
so
good. So I know you just shared a lot about already working with HOAs, but when you got that first truck, how did you always hear the question, how did you get your first customers? So, how did you start out? How did you get those first 50, 150, 200 customers?
So I was a little paranoid, I don't know. So how I got my first truck was we got a second mortgage on the house. So once you put the house into the mix, you get a little nervous, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in all reality, now the good thing is our area of the country has grown so drastically, and our prices from when we bought our house in 2012 to now have, not 100%, but they've gone up 80%. So basically we were playing with the house's money. If you look at a gambling type term, or the way I looked at it is we're, kind of playing with the house's money. So
right.
Not that we want to lose it, obviously, but so I was a little paranoid, and I didn't want to mention it to anybody. I mean, it's got to be hush hush, and my wife's like, "You're gonna be a garbage man?" And I'm like, "No, I'm gonna own a garbage bin cleaning company," and that kind of stuff. And she's super supportive, and she went with it. Let's just say that. I don't know if she was truly on board. And it took until about 2 years before she's like, "Oh, this thing might actually still be around." She thought it was just this crazy midlife crisis. Instead of buying a Corvette, I was buying a garbage truck or something.
Right.
She didn't know what was going on. But ultimately, to answer your question, I didn't tell anybody until about, till I knew it was almost on the road. So it was about 2 weeks out. We finished the wrap design over Thanksgiving that year. And I think I ran my first Facebook ad, call it middle or right around Thanksgiving, about the same time, because then I knew it was coming. Nobody's going to quote beat me to the punch, that kind of thing. So I got in December of 18, and I started it. The whole goal was to get it before the Christmas parade, which was on the 15th or something, because I thought everybody, when you start this business or any business, all you've thought about it's consumed you for 8, 9 months, 10 months. It's all consuming. And I was doing all this research, and I just thought everybody and their brother's going to jump on it. And it not exactly how it happens, or at least didn't for me. So that first month, I think we got 26 customers, a sum total of like 1 from that Christmas parade that it was all keyed in on. And then the next month, just January, I think we gained like 13, and then February was like 18, and then March, we got back in the 20s or 30s. So it obviously took some time. At the end of the year, we ended up with 350, which, I thought I was going to get 500 by the first quarter. I was off on that projection, but by 6 or so months in, it was covering its own cost. It was at least
now were you running ads, Facebook ads continually?
At that point, yes. Yeah, pretty much that whole time. Now I've changed it where I really only run them from like February or March until, maybe August. And I probably could go longer. I mean, it depends. It's almost like from my experience, it's almost like a faucet. When you turn it on, turn it off, you have to turn it. Like when it was just me, that first year I didn't have to turn it off. I kept it going. But then that next year, that second year before I got my third truck, in December also of that I guess 2020, I had to turn it off in like July or August because I was inundated too much. And so I did no more advertising from July on, and on Facebook. And then this year I haven't started them up yet, but I, again, because we're almost to capacity. So the hardest part, in my opinion, is deciding when to add another truck. I had ordered this other truck back in July, but delays put it off until, till it was supposed to be January, February. Now it's more like March. So we were fine. We are fine, but we can't add big numbers. So it doesn't make sense to, at least with the 2 trucks, doesn't make sense to go ahead and add them. So.
Gotcha. So it sounds like a common theme, that, Facebook really is probably the best source to grow your client base.
I think so. I've done everything. That first year I earmarked, a bunch of money to marketing. Because when you take out, and that's the other thing, people are deciding to get into this business. Um, you know, make sure you have enough, say for the truck, call it 110, 115, whatever it is. But if you don't have enough money or enough wherewithal or the ability to go a long period of time before you take a salary, but not only that, to cover expenses. I mean, you've got insurance, you've got storage, you've got water, you've got disposal, you've got, maintenance. Although, you shouldn't have a lot of maintenance that first year or two, but you've got maintenance and oil changes. I mean, it just adds up. And then when you throw an employee on, like if you're going to start off with an employee, well, you better have the wages in the bank to cover them for a period of time as well. So you have to have all of that. But as far as the advertising goes, that first year in February, we did a home show. In March, we did a beer festival. That's more personal. Like we like the craft beers. So we sponsored the beer fest in exchange for water.
That was a business write-off.
Yeah, I mean, we provide this year. I think we have to provide 5,000 bottles of water, and we're doing the 5K before. So now we're year 4. So it's but I have a lot of helpers and my friends, friends that want to help with that. So they can go to the beer fest. So we did that. I did the coupon, the Val packs, if you have those, or the coupon, the little tiny things that come in the mail. I did a couple different ones of those.
Did those produce anything?
Gosh, no, not at all. I did a community magazine, and then I said I'd never do it again, and I got talked into another one last year, and I did a community magazine. I think I tied back, four signups to it, but I spent like $3,000 on it, over the year. It's $3,500 a month or so, $3,500, and I can tie directly 4. So, everybody in marketing, it's all about touches, right? You've got to see my ad or my business 4 to 6 or 8 times before you want to make action on it. Well, that's great. But if it costs me $3,500 to get, a couple touches and I only gained 4, so I'll never do a magazine again. It's just, it's almost too passive.
Yeah. I'm glad you shared that, because I had my first, conversation with somebody local here in Charleston that they do those neighborhood. And I had a couple of conversations with them, and heck, the product looked great. I mean, the magazine looks great, but I was still like, wow, that is a lot of money when you're looking at $21 of, your average stop, or, my in my world. I know pricing's different, but I was like, wow. I started backing into those numbers, and I was like, that's a lot of signups that I have to get just to break even.
Yeah. And, and I don't figure 4 times $20. I take the average life of them. And even if I did average life, it's going to take me 15 years with those 4 people, and they'll sell you on the fact, that they're in $1 million homes and blah, 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 blah. The demographics are high and we pick only the best, which, hey, that's great. But but like you had alluded to, at a $20 or $25 stop, it's not the same as the person that sells the roof or sells even garage doors or sells the landscape lighting. Right. All of those things are bigger ticket items that, you get, because everybody always talks about it. And I would warn you too, don't think about, it'll take just, one good sale or, to break even, blah, 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 blah. No, it's not about breaking even. You don't do this stuff to break even. Otherwise, when you do go out and do the stops, you're working for free. So, or negative. So, but yeah, I'll never do one of those again. And, and it's nothing against them necessarily. And, you'll see the same companies in there all the time, but they're the big dogs, they're the whatever that, and they're just doing it for that touch. And for them, it's inexpensive, because the real thing that gets them the money is the number of employees and trucks they have on the road. That's what gets them the signups, that's what costs them the most money. But, then they use this as an ancillary touch. And, so anyways.
Yeah, you mentioning employees and that being a hot topic right now, especially since, it seems like nobody wants to work today. What's your biggest challenge right now with your business?
Right now, the biggest challenge, it's going to be a little bit about the employees. You know, I've got 2 guys now. One actually just put in their notice, so I've got to replace that one, and I've got to get one ready for the 3rd truck. So definitely, you know, doing that. And for me, honestly, it's going to be paring down and rerouting everybody. You know, now I've got, you know, in the past, if it was just me driving 15 minutes to go do this one, another 8 minutes to do that one, no big deal. But now when you put an employee in there, you know, I really need to spend the time, or somebody needs to spend the time, and it's probably going to have to be me, to reroute accordingly so that we have a more efficient, you know, route. So when we go out, because there's some days, you know, you can, you know, some routes you could do 55 and be done in 8 hours. Other routes you can do 21 and be done in 8 hours. And you need to, in my opinion, you want to make, you know, as reasonable number of stops in that 8 hour period or thereabouts. And, you know, so if we can pare it down, move things around, make it more efficient, I think it's going to be better for us to get into that range where we have, say, you know, then the other problem is, if you have 55 stops on that route, we'll say, you can't add any signups that might come in next month because you're back to 55. Now you can go to 57. You can't do that. So I want to try to make every route have about 35 to 40 stops. It would be my goal. And if they can get done quicker than 8 hours, great. If it takes them 8 hours, that's okay too. But then it allows me through the building season to add people to that route. So, you know, then maybe by August, I'll have 55 in there. And then I got to go back, grab another truck to, you know, divvy them up again and go from there. So
now, do you do same day or next day?
So I started off because, you know, I was working another job at the time, so it was fine. I'd go in at 4 a.m. I'd get out at 2 or whatever, and then I'd do the route, and it was great because it was good for them, good for me. You know, I'd get home at 7 o'clock. I'd be dead tired, but, you know, whatever, rinse and repeat, go back to that restaurant days. And so then I went to kind of like a hybrid, but now it's that, you know, that would probably be my real close number 2nd difficulty is right now the next day thing. The problem with starting same day is that now people expect it, and it's going to be a tough pill to swallow. But they also are living through the heartache too, where one guy just texted me the other day and said our bins were finally picked up after 16 days. So they hadn't gone through there in 16 days. So they recognize the pain and struggle. And I don't think it'll be crazy at this time if I you know, when I switch over. But that switch over comes with a ton of time. You know, I'm gonna have to be on that computer,
Yep.
you know, for a long time, because there's just no, you know, there's no easy way to go through the number of clients we have to move them all the next day.
Yeah.
But it's one of those necessary evils. And as long as I'm going to try to redistribute, I might as well redistribute and switch at the same time prior to the season.
Yeah. So now that you talked about routing and the, you know, the challenges there, what systems are you using to run your business?
The main one is Jobber. That one has the one I've always started with. I guess you start off with my website, which gains most of the clients. About, I don't know, 90% of my people come in right through the website with no interaction from anybody, which is the best way. And a long time, you know, back in the beginning, it was 95 or 99% really. Now we do get some call-ins that want to sign up that way, or we get some at the truck or stuff like that. So, but the website gains the customer. Then we enter them into Jobber, and then, you know, we use MSA, which helps filter out those website inquiries or signups. Prior to MSA, we were getting, say in 2020 and well, when did I start with you? I guess 2021.
Yeah, it's been over a year, or
just almost a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So prior to that, I was getting, you know, probably 30 or 50 signups, you know, during the height per month that were out of my area. Living in Atlanta, we've got a lot of, you know, celebrities. I've got a Real Housewife of Atlanta. I've got several Falcon football players and different things like that. Well, this one celebrity posts on her Instagram, you know, oh my gosh, I got my service done today. It's fantastic, yada, 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 which is great. And, you know, I didn't know she was doing it because she does it from the, you know, inside or whatever. That's whatever. So fantastic, right? The problem is I got to sign up from Huntington Beach, California. I got to sign up from Portland, Oregon. I got to sign up from someplace in Kansas. So, Housewives of Atlanta go into Kansas, if you didn't know that. All these, I probably got 7 signups from her. One was from my service area. So, but what that meant is those 6 signups needed to be refunded. One of them paid me, and that's the crazy thing. They pay, they don't even know, right? $205 was paid to me. Well, the problem with the $205 sale that you need to refund is you paid the credit card fees on a $205 sale.
Yep.
So that's, $7 or thereabouts. So, that $7 doesn't come back when you refund, you just lose it. They don't give you a bonus or a credit or whatever. So, but in my height, I was getting a lot of calls where, again, 30 to 50 calls a month roughly, where they were signing up and they were out of my area. And then, that the cost is one thing, but then the time, even with the templated email, I'd have to go in and send the templated email. Sorry, you're out of our area, blah, 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 your credit's coming. Then I'd have to go into my Stripe account and I'd have to go ahead and Stripe them back a refund. And, so every wrong sign up cost me, 3 minutes. And that's if I was hustling at that time. So, 3 times 50 is 150 minutes, 2 hours, and that's probably on the light end, but you get the idea. So that.
And then are you using QuickBooks as well, or?
Oh yeah. QuickBooks that logs in with Jobber. We're on a cash basis, so we don't do accrual. We don't do the accrual part. Just whatever cash comes in is what we allocate. Just makes it easier. I wanted to try to tie everything up with, Chris signed up. He paid me $200. Now he's got a credit of $186, and now he's got a credit of $171, right, and blah blah blah. But that just looks like more of a nightmare. So instead, we just we take the cash basis for the $200 when it comes in.
Gotcha. So. All right. I know that we've been talking for quite a while here.
I'm kind of a long talker.
Hey, I appreciate it. So, somebody looking to get into this business, and there seem like there are a ton of people that are finding out about this business, which is a great thing. I mean, because if you look at Europe, they've been doing this in Europe for forever.
25 years. Yeah,
it's like a common service over there. And now here in the States, I guess over the last 7 or 8 years, it is starting to really grab hold. And it's very much in its early stages.
Sure, very much.
So the growth potential is huge. So if you were talking to somebody, right now saying, hey, Mike, would you get in this business? What's your recommendation? Any tips that you would share with them?
I would do a lot of research. Again, my demographics, we kind of talk about living in the bubble. We have, we're in the 3rd wealthiest county in the country. So that's very helpful. Obviously we've got a lot of tech people. We've got a lot of people that don't, they don't do their own work, which is fine. There's DIYers. I happen to be a DIYer in this area, but for instance, one time I pulled into a house and I was the 6th provider doing work at that exact time. There was a lawn guy, there was a maid, there was there was myself, there was another guy doing the pool. I don't know, that's 4 or 5, and I was the 6th one on that one house at that one time. Like, what are the odds, right? So, so I would say, make sure you're doing the work on the demographic side. And then what I did is I talked to 5 or 6 different people across the country. The guy in Myrtle Beach, a woman in Austin, Jason Proctor out in San Diego. I talked to him. Arizona guy, I think he's now out of the business. He sold his business. And one other guy in Florida. So I talked to 5 different people before I even talked. I never talked to John, who's the Sparkling Bins guy, or any of the manufacturers, until I had done a ton of homework, because I didn't want to be influenced by,
right,
by the salesman, if you will. So once I realized that, hey, this works, and you look at the Austin Bin Wash. I mean, they, I think when I talked to them, they were a little over a year in. They were having their second truck delivered. Since then, they've had 2 more or maybe 3. So, in 4 years or 5 years, they've got 4 or 5 trucks on the road. And, and Jason Proctor, he's got 3. John Michael.
And he just acquired another
San Francisco. Yeah. So, but that was, that's years later. So,
yeah.
I mean, this was 3 years ago or 4 years ago when I was talking to them. So, and John Michael in Myrtle Beach, they're doing really well there. They have a little different model, but they do really well there. So it's, when I talk to them all, I said, well, those areas work, boom. So I'd say, do that, do your talking, and then it might behoove you to try to find out the demographics about your area, and then find other cities that are similar, and check that out. In my opinion, same size. If you don't have a lot of people in the area, then you're going to have to drive further, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's going to be harder when you have employees. And then the other thing is, I would say go next day from the start. Don't even, I started with at the same time as Jonathan Kimball out of Shore Cans in New Jersey. And he got his truck in February. I happened to be picking mine up or getting the training in December. And so I took a picture of his truck and sent it to him. I didn't know him at the time, but since then we talk every week. And, he went next day, like 3 weeks in. So he was smarter than me. And unfortunately, I just kept with the, customer service, we'll figure it out. But, again, the problem is you can't, you have no control over that other company. And so as such, you're at their mercy. If they don't pick up their trash till 4, 5 o'clock at night, well, you show up before then, you're stuck. So
yeah. I actually ran into that situation yesterday. One of my route this week, one of the towns is having serious staffing issues. I mean, it's been bad. It's been a headache. Yeah. And there were 2 stops where I had to message them and said, I'll get you next week. Because for me to sit around for 2 people and not even when it's a huge neighborhood. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
And we pull trash. I mean, if it's reasonable, we'll pull it, rebag it.
Oh yeah,
throw it back in. And that's a whole lot of fun. Let's be honest, that's tons of fun. So, but it becomes a necessary evil. I pull a lot more than I should, but that's because I just want to keep going. I got to keep going. And it costs me more to send them back. And so and people don't. They almost. I have great customers, but then there's a couple that'll say, well, you didn't do my recycle bin. Well, we wiped the top, we wiped the outside, we cleaned it as best we could, but we were there at 4:30. What more how much later can we possibly come? Right. So, so that's going to be my reasoning for moving. But, the big concern is, them putting, in my opinion, this goes, way too deep than this call, but is them putting all their stuff back at the garage. Now I got to schlep up, grab it, come down, wash it. We always return it and then come back to the truck. So, now I'm making an extra walk up there. What is that? And then if, some of these places have 5 bins, I've got a wrapper with 13 bins, can you imagine having to, that one, fortunately, I go onto their property and I do it way up at the house. So it's not a big deal, but can you imagine trying to move 4 or 5, bins out and then 4 or 5 back? I mean, that's 8 trips, so, and whatever. So those are some of the challenges.
Yeah. I mean, you have to, some of it's trial by fire.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you have to understand, I think from the start is, even though that money, you see those dollar signs, you need to learn to say no or understand what you're charging to make it profitable. Understand that you need tight routes. The efficiency is the name of this game. I mean, how efficient can you be in this business to make more money?
Or charge enough that you don't have to be efficient. And that's the other, as efficient, right? I mean, because, and that's one of the things now I'm going to change for this season as well. We're just, with the staffing shortages you mentioned earlier, companies now around here, at least, they are not going to be picking up recycling. They're going down to 1 truck. So now you're going to have people calling in and say, well, I don't have my recycle bin. I want half, so I upcharge. My first bin is always more expensive. So, and then from there, my add-on bin is a lot less, but I'm going to just do up to 2 bins is X amount. Up to 2 bins is, quarterly is this, and just get rid of the 1 bin pricing, because they're still going to probably need to use 2 bins, because, if you had 2 bins worth of crap before, you can't all stuff it in one necessarily.
Yeah.
So, but either way, and so making sure you're pricing enough. I kind of, in the beginning also, I talked about, I don't want to be the Walmart of bin cleaning. I don't want to be the cheapest. I want to be the Neiman Marcus. Not everybody's going to use my service. Hell, I mean, frankly, I wouldn't pay for my service. It's just not me.
Right.
I certainly wouldn't do it monthly, because that's just, I'm kind of too cheap, if you will. But that doesn't begrudge other people. I don't begrudge other people for doing it, because it's just who they are and who I am. So, but anyways, I think it's a great business. I think it's a great service. I'm not saying I wouldn't use it because it's a bad service by any stretch. Just saying that that's not who I am as a person to. So, but anyways, it is definitely a learning curve. It's definitely, you figure out a way, and you run with it, and certainly collaborate with other people. I've got about 7 or 8 people I talk to certainly on a monthly basis, and many of them are weekly or every other week, just to talk shop. So, yeah.
It's important to have.
I think it is, because, it's a little bit of a solitary business, right? I mean, I came from the restaurant business, and in any one shift, I'd have, 28 people working. On a Friday night, we'd have 28, 30 people working in this restaurant to feed, to do an $18,000 day or whatever. And so, there was never a moment you weren't talking then. And then you get in this truck and you're driving and you're doing 42 stops or 51 stops or whatever. And you're like, gosh, you can only listen to so much talk radio. You can only listen to so much, pop radio or whatever. And then, and one of my drivers loves sports talk. I don't know. I don't really care so much for the sports talk. I like to watch the game if it's on, but I don't do any other back. So, that, and he's a radio guy, so it's a music guy, so that's great. But for me, I got to call somebody. Who am I going to call? I'm going to call Dan from Ohio, or I'm going to call, like I said, Jonathan's a weekly call. Chris out of where's he out of? Fort Lauderdale area. He just got out of the business, but I would call him weekly, or almost every other day kind of thing, and just shoot the breeze and talk about our frustrations and solutions and different things like that. So, because you're going to have that, and and like I said, when you're first starting out, and especially if you got your house on the line, or to some extent your house on the line, there's a lot of pressure there. So you have to have some outlet, or at least I have to have an outlet to make sure I'm on the right path. Am I doing it right? Is there anything I do better or differently, or more efficiently, or whatever? So,
I mean, you learn something new every day, right?
You better. Yeah. I mean, you better. That's the goal. So, but some of the, I don't know if you probably don't have this as a question, but some of the books I would recommend. There's a Automatic Customer, John Warlow, something like that. That's a good one. Profit First, or any of the Mike Michalowicz books. Those are fantastic. I listened to that last year in January, it's December, when I was going down to Florida for the week. And we were driving down, and I had listened to that podcast, or not podcast, audible book. Fantastic book. Changed how I do my accounting and my business. Instead of just looking at one bank account. Basically, the premise is you take money out and divvy it all up.
Yep.
And then you can only spend, if you wanted to spend it on operations. Well, that's great. Here's your little slice of money. Go hog wild if you want, but you're always going to have a profit money. You're always going to have an owner's pay. You're always going to have an employee pay. You're going to have, future. So I've got 7 bank accounts, and, it's a little bit cumbersome monthly when we go through the books, but it's not terrible. Twice a month, you move the money around. You basically have all the money comes into one account, and then twice a month you divvy it up into the 6 other accounts. And so that helped me a lot. It helped me, have an account for purchasing the trucks and different things like that. And I still have a loan and stuff, but it gets me, it gets me a nice down payment that makes it almost painless to do, to do. And you're allowed to spend that money because it's earmarked for that. So that helps. But anyways.
Good
So those
suggestion.
would be the two books.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Mike, thanks a million for
My
the
pleasure.
conversation today. And hopefully, well, I know that you shared some good nuggets, and hopefully the audience will pick up, something useful that they can do, especially about, starting off. It sounds like, Facebook is the way to go, besides, the friends and family is first, but also
That didn't even really work very well. It all depends on how many families you got, right? And friends and stuff.
Right.
But
right.
don't count on that to be your business.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And start selling before you get that equipment in. That's for sure.
Yeah, that
Especially
helps.
in this market.
That helps.
All right, sir. Thanks a million.
I appreciate it. Thank
All right,
you.
talk soon.
Have a good one.
All right,
Bye.
you too. Bye.